Welcome back to the Gaelic Grounds for the second half of this Limerick Senior Hurling Championship quarter final between South Liberties and Patrickswell. The well lead 113 to 9 points as we wait for John O'Halloran to throw the ball in, and we're away again as Ryan flicks the ball to David O'Neill, and David O'Neill plays the ball back to David Gary. Gary plays it long, but it's a beautiful touch from Mark Carmody, and Carmody comes away for Patrickswell. Carmody goes long with it. He's looking for either Aaron Gillan or Thomas O'Brien. Neither of them win it. It's won by the corner back from South Liberties, Owen Quilty, and they've won a free out. Have the Jordowns coach team. It's going to be taken by Michael O'Brien. O'Brien hits it long. It's well anticipated by Jack Kelleher, and Kelleher a shooting chance now. It's a high one from Jack Kelleher. Tails just to the left, but Kieran well anticipated by Jack, but again, second time today from long range, he just hasn't been able to find the target.
No, but like it was a turnover again, the poor ball down the wing, intercepted by Jack Keller, and it just tailed in the last minute to the right hand side, but very unlucky there.
John Flynn comes away with the ball for Patrickswell, flicks it off to Shawnee O'Brien, who pulls first time. Michael O'Brien is there for South Liberties, but he's dispossessed by Aaron Gillan. Tom O'Brien is onto it in a flash. O'Brien now with a bit of space to rise this ball and hopefully from a Patrickswell point of view tap it over the bar. O'Brien now goes off on the run. It was a poor enough effort from Tommy O'Brien on that occasion. One he would have expected to score him at.
Yeah, I expected that he would score that. It's a bit of a let off for South Liberties early in the second half when they have Patrickswell had two. Well, certainly the second chance was a very good chance. Maybe Jack Kelleher's chance wasn't as good. But I did notice they've had two puck outs and they lost the first. They failed to win the first one spectacularly again, as Kieran flagged a number of times in the first half. Now they got better currency on that one, but that's something I'm sure that Jordowns would have been addressing at half time.
Sideline cut now on the far side for Patrickswell to be taken by Kevin O'Brien, it looks like, as Tommy O'Brien has to go out over the hoardings to retrieve the sliotar. So Brian now taking with his left hand side, looking at his options, maybe going for a score. It's a decent cut from Kevin O'Brien. It's not going to go. It's a goal chance, and it's still bouncing around about. Paul Butler still hasn't got control of it. In the end, he's forced to kick it over the end line for a 65, but Kieran, nearly a lucky goal for the well.
Yeah, it's a sideline ball in there from Kevin O'Brien, into slightly hot for the goalkeeper, dropped it, tried to pick it up and failed to do so, and kicked it out for a 65. Yeah, could have been a soft goal really.
It's Dermot Burns now looking to extend Patrickswell's lead to 5 points in the early stage of this second half. Just 2.5 minutes played as Burns lines up to 65. He's already scored one in the first half. This one is definitely within his radar anyway. So he lines it up and strikes. And invariably it's straight over the black spot mat, and 5 point lead now for Patrickswell in the early stage of the second half.
Yeah, look, to make a game of it, it's South Liberties should be making inroads into the lead. That's a spectacular catch by Barry Nash. There he was fouled, and look, something that might rally South Liberties, but certainly they need a lot of rallying at this stage, and they need to create chances, and above all they need to take them.
Indeed, it's Patrickswell leading by 8 points after that. Dermot Burns 65, not 5 as I said, as Brian Ryan lines this one up. Midway between the two 65s in midfield, over towards this Mackey stand side, 15 to 20 metres in from the end line. Ryan has been flawless so far. From frees up to now, Matt, it's one he'll expect to score.
Yeah, but it's long and it's into the wind, and it's to the left of the goal. It's well struck, but didn't have the distance.
Mark Carmody catches the ball in line for Patrickswell and finds Jack Kelleher with a pinpoint pass. Kelleher goes long. It's intercepted by South Liberties, and it's David Gary, coming away with the ball, and Gary now playing advantage referee lays it off to David O'Neill. David O'Neill strikes. It's a high one, and it's miles wide, to be fair, there from David O'Neill. Chance for South Liberties, and Kieran, if they are to get back into these games, even though it was a difficult chance for David O'Neill, they've got to be taking them.
Yeah, David O'Neill, they want to be taking all those, and as Matt said there, Barry Nash caught an outstanding ball there a while ago, but we need to see Barry Nash do buckets more of that in the second half if South Liberties going to get
another chance here for Tommy O'Brien, well hooked in the end by Owen Quilty. Looked like it could have been a half a goal chance for Tommy O'Brien. Looked like he was going to tap it over the bar, but brilliantly hooked by Owen Quilty there, and another let off for South Liberties as Butler restarts play. It's another poor puck out from Paul Butler straight to Cian Lynch, and he's not the man you want to be giving easy chances like that down. Cian Lynch makes no mistake. 115 to 9 points now, 5 minutes of the second half played.
That's the last thing South Liberties want, and if they really want to get back into the game, you don't puck it out to the opposition, and you certainly don't puck it out to Cian Lynch of all people. You puck the ball, I suppose, in the direction and in the area where Cian Lynch isn't, and just that I suppose it's classical of the difference between the teams and between Group 1 and Group 2. That was just a puck out that was going absolutely nowhere.
Yellow card here for Barry Nash for a foul on Shawnee O'Brien as Aaron Gillan lines up this free to extend Patrickswell's lead to 10 points if he puts this one over. It's just past the halfway line as Gillan lines this one up. Good strike from Aaron Gillan. Team seems to be tailing to the left, and it's well wide. Struck the ball well enough, but Kieran had tailed off very early.
No, what was surprising about that, Dermot Burns was about 10 yards behind him, and on his eye, just seeing how he'd fare out, because Dermot Burns he'd know deep down that he'd be able to split the post with it.
And Paul Butler gets us back underway, and it's South Liberties in possession, but I think it was Shane Gary who fell over the sideline there, and it's going to be a line ball for Patrickswell. 6.5 minutes played of the second half. It's 115 to 9 points in favour of Gary Kirby's Patrickswell side. As Jack Kelleher lines this one up. It's a good cut from Jack, looking for Peter Harty. Peter gets control of it and he's away. Chance for Peter Harty. One he should tap over with relative ease, and Peter makes no mistake, Matt. And the first half finished all the way in Patrickswell's favour. It seems the second half has continued on the same trend.
Yeah, it's continuing on the same trend, and I think from a spectator point of view and from everybody point of view, whatever energy and jizz and intensity was in the game seems to be gone out of it. It's a lackluster contest at this stage, and we have a bit of fire here at this stage.
Yeah, it's a challenge by Shane Gary on Calvin Carroll. It was kind of Calvin fairly high in I think around the chin area. Kieran, he's struggling anyway after it, and referee John O'Halloran is calling Gary over now.
I think that's possibly due to a small bit of frustration again, and I emphasised it earlier on, and I'm going to emphasise it again. The puck outs are crippling South Liberties. They haven't won any puck out. The last three again to Patrickswell, and hence the reason why he went short and it failed to do it. So they're actually struggling in that department at the moment, and Patrickswell are kind of punishing them at every stage.
It's a yellow card for Shane Gary for that challenge on Calvin Carroll, who's still down in front of us here in the Mackey stand. We've 8 minutes played of this second half earlier on today at the Gaelic Grounds in the first of our double header. Murroe Boher suffered a devastating defeat in their game against Kilmallock, 427 to 13 points. The South Liberties are making their first change of the game as Rory O'Neill is on the field. Just waiting to see who's coming off now. It looks like Michael O'Brien, who's the man to depart for South Liberties, as Aaron Gillan lines up this free. Gillan didn't strike the last one as he would have liked. We're hoping to do so. Tap this one over the bar. Gillan lifts it and strikes. It's a much better one, and it's from the Limerick free taker, and Gillan makes no mistake with that one. 117 to 9 points in Patrickswell's favour. As Kieran just mentioned, Paul Butler's puckouts have not been at their best. That's a better one though to find David O'Neill. Back to his brother Shane, and then out the wing, and South Liberties can launch an attack from here with David Gary. Gary's hand pass is loose though, and Dermot Burns comes onto it. He looks for a free. Referee John O'Halloran says no, and Barry Nash on possession here, but there's several Patrickswell players around. It's a poor one from Barry Nash, and he could be in a bit of trouble here. It was a wild strike across Kevin O'Brien. Absolutely no need for it. Matt, it'll be interesting to see what card John O'Halloran produces.
I imagine it'll be a yellow card. I would say. Look,
he is on a yellow already.
He is actually, yeah.
That's the end of Barry Nash's afternoon. Of course, 5 minutes ago he'd been already shown a yellow card by John O'Halloran, and South Liberty's task has got even greater.
It has, and this is the last thing that the game and South Liberties needed was to be down to 14 men, and they're already 11 points down. At this point, I can see absolutely no way back. There's an excellent point for Patrickswell from...
Lark Considine with an outstanding score there. A great low ball downfield by Dermot Burns. Beautiful touch from Patrick Carroll in defence. But Lark was quick enough to take the ball off him, turn back onto his right hand side and flick it over the bar. And now it's looking very, very bad for South Liberties at this stage as Patrickswell on the attack again. Cian Lynch with a ball just over Jack Keller. Still a chance of a goal if he can get possession. It's kind of moved away from goal, and Patrick Carroll as well to snuff out the goal danger. Kelleher has it though, and he's able to put it over the bar. That's 119 to 9 points, and Patrickswell now are completely dominating proceedings, Kieran.
Yeah, without a doubt. And to be fair to me, you can see mentally they're right today because they're hurling in accordance to that, and it's kind of becoming like a kind of a good, tough, hard training session now, especially now with Barry Nash gone as well, unfortunately.
Paul Butler tries to relaunch a South Liberties attack. It's going to be a sideline ball for Patrickswell though. As David O'Neill, last hit David O'Neill and out over the sideline. Jack Kelleher to take the sideline cut. And Matt, for the first 20 minutes in the opening half, you had a tight game, but Patrickswell went through the gears in the final stages of that first half, and they haven't let off since.
No, and like we thought in those first 20 minutes that we were going to get a much tighter contest, but look, for the last, since half time, it has been reflecting just what happened in the first game. Patrickswell just picking off scores at will, and South Liberties like Murroe Boher, really they haven't been at the races since the change of ends.
So another chance for Lark Considine there, but this one it's tailed to the left and is wide. As Paul Butler gets us back underway, it's another decent puck out from Paul, and they'll try and relaunch an attack with Rory O'Neill. Rory goes long. There's several Patrickswell players around to get that, but it's David Gary that's come out with it from South Liberties, and it's inside. And that's Brian Gary on the run here. It's a weak enough shot. Brian Murray does well. He'll eat them ons up all day, safe as houses. Out to Shawnee O'Brien. He's got Calvin Carroll outside him. If he wants to use him, he chooses not to use him, and Shawnee's away, using his pace to get away from danger. And brilliant play from Shawnee O'Brien. Huge bit of play from Shawnee O'Brien. He managed to take out a South Liberties. A glorious touch from Aaron Gillan. Gillan now with a chance. And Kieran, that's as good a score as you're going to see.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant defending, Shawnee O'Brien. Shawnee O'Brien's a great bit of stuff, and he rode about 4 different challenges there, and even the last fellow from the Pierce, I forget who it is. I think it's number 11. One of the O'Neills came in. Yeah, he came in, tried to do Shawnee, but Shawnee kind of just sidestepped him, and he came out the worst in. He had ball down here to Aaron Gillan straight over the bar. Great piece of defending out of Shawnee as well.
Another substitution on the South Liberties side. Patrickswell have one as well, but it's Mike Keane on for South Liberties. And it's Jason Gillan who's come on for his first senior championship game this season, certainly. Star for the Patrickswell junior team this year. And also you have Darragh Hearn coming onto the field. It's going to be Lark Considine and Peter Harty coming off the Patrickswell team. Maybe resting Lark, because Lark's been one of their better performers in the forwards, as is Peter. To be fair, he set up a few scores. As Paul Butler gets play underway here, it's Mike Keane straight into the action, and he's after taking out one of his own players by the looks of it. They're both down as Cian Lynch tries to pass the ball. Mike Keane is up, but unfortunately for South Liberties, Shane Gary is still on the ground. And Matt, we're just coming up to 44 minutes, 120 to 9 in favour of Patrickswell. As we said, in the full forward line here, Patrickswell and South Liberties players clashing. Much ado about nothing, I think. A bit of frustration on the South Liberties side. And now it's escalating, has to be said now, and we'll just see how this one develops. A few players on the ground. Aaron Gillan has lost his helmet. There's a couple of players still locked together. One of them is definitely Kevin O'Brien from the Patrickswell side. Mike Sexton is in quick as a flash from the sideline to try and sort things out. The players have been broken apart now. And referee John O'Halloran has already gone in to consult his umpires there. But Matt, come back to what we were saying a minute ago. Just like the first game, we were midway through the second half and we were talking about Kilmallock Looking ahead now to the Pearshig semi-final, Patrickswell are obviously going to be doing the same, taking off Peter Arty and Lark Considine, giving Jason Gillan and Dara Hearn a run. Their thoughts are turning to doing certainly now.
Yeah, and quite rightly so, with less than a quarter of an hour to go, and they're leading by 12 points, 13 points, and are completely on top. And certainly Gary Kirby is giving a run to fringe players there, as we say, Jason Gillan getting what you flagged as a first start, and Dara Hearn, who has, I think, played a bit in the competition already as a substitute. But again, like as I said about John Bruder and his management team, I think Gary Kirby and his team too they would have much preferred a tougher test, because let's face it, this type of a lopsided, one-sided game, all right for the winners, they progress, but it does very, very, very little for them. It certainly does nothing for the losers. And with the championship so condensed at the moment, all right, for Patrickswell, I suppose it's hugely important that they reverse what was a losing run. They came into the game here on the back of back-to-back defeats to, albeit Kilmallock and Patrickswell, or the Pearshig, and they will be glad to have got back to winning ways. But I think they were, going into a semi-final, 7-day turnaround, you would much prefer, I think, a much tougher test.
And that's a yellow card each for Patrick Carroll and Aaron Gillan from National Muzzle down by the City end goals. A couple of moments ago, referee John Halloran will restart the game with a throw-in on the South Liberties 65. Brian Nolan has come onto the field for South Liberties. It's Aaron Gillan that's been taken off. And I think Kieran is in the fear of Aaron Gillan getting a red card rather than anything else he's done in the game.
Yeah, possibly, but there was a bit of frustration from South Liberties. But like any inter-county player that goes out hurling with their clubs, they will always get that extra bit of stick, so you have to kind of be ready for that, prepare for that, and usually the answer is to that usually is over the bar or just walk away and take no notice.
South Liberties on the attack now. Strike from David Gary, from Brian Gary I should say, but cleared away. It's a free in here, I'm not sure for what. John O'Halloran has spotted something. It'll be Brian Ryan, who Patrickswell have done a very good job in the second half of keeping Brian Ryan quiet. I think, fair to say, with 17 minutes of it played, that's the first time he's touched the ball.
It is, to be fair, and as I highlighted earlier on, halfway through the first half, I think he's possibly their main scorer. I'm only guessing here he's 7 or 8 points in frees. I'd say possibly only 1 or 2 outside of that, and certainly that wouldn't cut the mustard in a quarter-final of a senior hurling championship, to be fair.
Brian Ryan taps that one over, Matt.
Yeah, he taps it over, but another interesting statistic about it is that we're into the 48th minute, and it's the first alteration to the scoreboard, to the South Liberties tally in the second half, which we're in a county senior quarter final, as Kieran says, and if you have designs in progressing, you can go 18 minutes without a score.
Cian Lynch takes Brian Murray's puck out. Superb catch, struck it fairly quickly, but just tailed to the left. Didn't have enough on it. The South Liberties make another sub, and it's Barry Walsh who's coming on the field. I think it's Owen Godfrey coming towards us here, who departs as Paul Butler launches a puck out, and a great catch from David O'Neill, and he takes on possession. No free given, but he's able to find Shane Gary on the left hand side. Gary on a good run. He's pulled back by Josh Considine. It was always going to be a free. John O'Halloran left advantage go, but it's going to be another free in quick succession here for South Liberties, and as Matt and Kieran pointed out, it's their first score in 18 minutes, 1 score in the second half. This should be their second. It's certainly not good enough at senior quarter final level at this stage, but Brian Ryan, not much he can do. He hasn't seen much ball in this half. He looked to tap this one over and keep the board ticking over from South Liberties' point of view.
Yeah, as I said in the first game, Limerick are All-Ireland champions, and this is a poor. It's a poor game. It's lackluster. It lacks intensity. Patrickswell don't have to rise the intensity because they're so far ahead and they're so far on top. I think most of the spectators down there and most people here on the ground would be wishing now for that long whistle.
It's a good puck out from Brian Murray to Brian Nolan. Cian Lynch has it now. He manages to trip over, loses his feet. It's going to be a sideline ball. Kieran, from your point of view, looking ahead now as we can do with the scoreline the way it is, Patrickswell against Doon in the semi-final next weekend. What are you looking for from Patrickswell in these remaining minutes ahead of that game?
Well, to be fair to Patrickswell and Kilmallock today, both teams coming in would be expected to beat the opposition comfortable, because, to be fair, they're just that far ahead of them, really. What will Patrickswell learn out from today, really? I suppose the big one for me is the subs coming on. Are they going to stake a real claim for the semi-final of a championship? Doon have improved a ton this year, so Patrickswell actually will have to up it another notch, really, I believe. But I believe they have it in them to do that. It'll be kind of a derby kind of a game as well, so it'll be a lot more competitive than the two quarterfinals we saw today, I'd imagine.
Just a shot there from Tommy O'Brien as Kieran was talking, a tail to the left and wide as South Liberties again. Sharp puck out, and it's David Gary coming away with the ball, but he's dispossessed brilliantly by Brian Nolan. Nolan leaves it off. Gillan has it. Jason Gillan takes a shot on. That's a sensational score from Jason Gillan, and no surprise to anyone that's seen Jason Gillan over the last couple of years. But Patrickswell junior team, he's well capable of tipping them ones over the bar from any angle, Matt.
Yeah, that was a fantastic score on his first appearance. Absolutely, what a start to get.
Very reminiscent of his brother there in that one, turning onto his left side and scoring from anywhere. Shawnee O'Brien next in line to have a shot from Patrickswell. That has the same result. Fantastic score from Shawnee O'Brien. You'd have to say, Kieran, Shawnee being back fit is a huge plus for this team.
He is, but they're all mentally tuned in. That was a great passage of play. Dermot Burns to Keane Lynch, Shawnee O'Brien over the bar in the space of about 6 seconds.
Beautiful score from Patrickswell, not the first by a long shot as they stretched their lead to 14 points now, 125 to 11 points, 51 and a half minutes played of this second game, brought to you on sportinglimerick.com and on our YouTube channel. Second of two games, as we've already mentioned on several occasions. Kilmallock booking their place against the Patrick next weekend as Tommy O'Brien goes through and goal. O'Brien now looking for goal, plays the ball back. Dara Hearn with the chance, well blocked by Dara Hearn, but blocked on Dara Hearn. Shot then by Calvin Carroll, well blocked again by the Liberties defence, and they've done very well to come away with that ball and clear it downfield. Heading towards Gary. Gary's blocked by Brian Nolan. Very interesting, very competitive Brian Nolan, having come on a couple of minutes ago. As South Liberties come away with it with Gary, and now it's away they come again with Brian Ryan dropping back. Has had to drop back this far to get possession. His cleared attempted pass is not good enough, and Burns from miles out. Burns, and that's a sensational score from Dermot Burns. All of 80-90 yards, and Kieran, it's a trademark Dermot Burns score.
Oh, without a doubt, but it was made pretty easy for him by Brian Ryan straight into the end. And in fairness to South Liberties, I have to say, even though they're getting a bit of a trimming, to be fairness to them, they keep going, and even though they're making silly mistakes, they keep coming back again. So they're showing great old spirit. They haven't the towel fully thrown in, so they're still showing a bit of game. But there's a huge gap in quality versus South Liberties and Patrickswell, to be fair.
It's another sub on the South Liberties side. In has come Brendan McSween, and he's come on for Shane Gary. A sideline cut now. In fact, it's a free and over on the far side that David O'Neill's looking to take. O'Neill puts it in low. There's Nigel Foley coming away with John Flynn in the end, who wins it for Patrickswell, but away comes Josh Considine, and Considine does well. He's moved back now. He was initially named to start at half forward, but he's played a fine game at cornerback. Has Shawnee O'Brien on the ball now for Patrickswell. Instead, it's Dara Hearn. Hearn has Keane Lynch over the side. Superb pass to Keane Lynch. He drops it. Keane Lynch now with time and space. He's looking for Kevin O'Brien here. It's not the best stroke pass from Keane Lynch. That's intercepted. It's Gary that has it, and he's laid it off. It's the man just on. It's Brendan McSween, who's just come on trying to win the ball for South Liberties, but it's Dara Hearn getting in the block, and Keane Lynch wills. It's Brendan McSweeney then wins at a high, aimless enough ball that's easily defended by Patrickswell. And Nigel Foley, and it's Dermot Burns coming away, but Burns now on the attack, lays a simple ball inside to Mark Carmody. Carmody's fouled by O'Neill. John O'Halloran, referee, says no, Carmody has the shot in the end. There's going to be no advantage. It probably should have been a free to Patrickswell as they prepare two more substitutes in the name of Barry Carey and Clive Kirby coming onto the side. Kieran, another two young players given their chance now.
Yeah, Clive Kirby would be son of Shamey Kirby, and that's my own son Barry coming on there. So it's great to see these two guys. It's the first time experiencing hurling as well.
And Keane Lynch is one of the players, just waiting to see who the other player coming off for Patrickswell is. In fact, it's Shawnee O'Brien who's been called ashore by Gary Kirby and his management team. This game is long over. Patrickswell management team decided to give a lot of younger players their head in the last few minutes of this game. 54 and a half minutes played. Patrickswell leading South Liberties 123 to 11 points in this Limerick Senior Hurling Championship quarter final. But long ball inside, but it should be dealt with by Josh Considine, and Considine comes out. Brilliant pickup from Considine. Lays the ball off to Calvin Carroll. Carroll now from long range looking for his third point of the game. This one looks to be tailing to the right. It's worth a try from Calvin in the last few moments. A very impressive performance by him, a very impressive performance by Josh Considine. Kieran, two young lads coming onto the team the last year or so. Very impressive today.
Yeah, but I can see Josh Considine moulding in there to an outstanding cornerback, possibly in time going into fullback, because even though he can play up front, but he's at his most comfortable there defending actually, and he had a beautiful quiet game. He had not a quiet game, but anything that came his way there today, he dealt with it with ease.
And South Liberties try and launch another attack here, playing for pride at the end of this game, the last few minutes. And it's come on again, as Kieran just highlighted. Josh Considine mopping up everything that's come his way today. It's a long range effort from Tommy O'Brien. Looks to be good from our angle here in the gantry in the Gaelic Grounds, and it's another sensational score, Matt, from Tommy O'Brien. 124 to 11 points. As Kieran mentioned a couple of minutes ago, they had a job to do, Patrickswell. They've done it.
Yeah, they've done it in style, and they have done it in a very encouraging manner, because it's a huge step up from last week, and like they will drive on from that. As Kieran mentioned a couple of times, it's their focus. That their focus is absolutely spot on today, and certainly they will be looking forward to next weekend's semi-final with Doon.
Brian Ryan's free inside. That's well won by O'Neill. David O'Neill who's gone up, Shane O'Neill, who's gone up into the full forward line of South Liberties. Try and get a few goals at the end of this game to try and get a bit of respectability between the teams. It's another free anyway that Brian Ryan will line up. He may even have a go with this. He's all of 35 metres from goals. A bit of top spin on it maybe. There was top spin on it. Brian Murray bats it out, did the safe option, flicked it away. Kieran, it was a shot he had to go for, put the top spin on and hope for the best.
He did, yeah. He did a kind of a John McEnroe job in it there, but it didn't come off, unfortunately. Brian Murray was alerted and blocked it. I think Barry kicked it out to the wing out there to Nolan.
It's Kevin O'Brien's sideline cut, and it's inside to Calvin Carroll. Calvin now back to Kevin O'Brien. He's got Jack Kelleher down the line ahead of him. Jack Kelleher now, cute angle for Jack Kelleher, no bother to him whatsoever, and that's another fine score from Jack Kelleher, this time in the Patrickswell team. Kieran, they're picking off their scores at will, but they're still taking them.
They are, yeah. To be fair, watching Patrickswell the last two games, it's a totally different Patrickswell, different opposition. But you know what? Now it's food for thought for Doon in the semi-final. That it isn't the same. Well, of the last two games they'll be meeting a total different Patrickswell, total different personnel and position-wise also. And even watching how they set up today, they set up outstanding today. So the two semi-finals this year, you would have predicted at the start of the year, but they make the two good games.
It's a great catch again by Josh Considine after that long frame. Josh has, with the second Kieran mentioned him a couple of minutes ago, he's even gone better, as Dara Ahern now in possession for Patrickswell. Ahern taking on Patrick Carroll. Ahern has it now. Will he tap it over? He goes for goal, and it's a good save from Paul Butler. Fine save from Paul Butler. He's flicked that over the bar. 126 to 11 points, Matt.
Yeah, I suppose. Look, all it's doing is reflecting the superiority of Patrickswell. South Liberties, they've been gritty, they've been gamey, but they've only scored 2 points from frees in the second half. It tells it all.
As they try and get another one, try and get up the field to try and get another score, but it's Patrickswell utterly dominant. Now it's John Flynn now. 35 metres from goal. There's a goal on if he keeps going for it. Well able to put these away himself is John Flynn. Flynn keeps going. Eventually well defended by Patrick Carroll, it has to be said. And Carroll has had a fine game at full back for South Liberties today. Ball's cleared out to Rory O'Neill. Rory O'Neill launches it long, but once more, not for the first time, is Josh Considine. Loses possession of it this time, and it's Shane O'Neill, and it's a ball inside. It's Mike Keane that has it. Keane now looking for their first score from playing the second half. And has Keane put it over there? Yes, he has. South Liberties' first score from playing the second half, their third overall. And Kieran, it has to be said, they've taken a beating today, but you mentioned it earlier, they haven't dropped their head once. They've stuck to their task, as was evident from Patrick Carroll making that block on John Flynn and Mike Keane putting that one over the bar.
There's a few of them there, like the O'Neills there playing with South Liberties there for years. I had young Pat Carroll with Limerick 21s a few years ago. As honest the players you'll get, he'll give it all. Whatever he has, ability he has, he emptied the tanks every day he goes out, and he did the same thing today. So he was actually, in fairness to him, he's one player that you pick out for South Liberties that hurled extremely well from start to finish today.
It's Mark Carmody now with the ball for Patrickswell to Kevin O'Brien. He jinks past his man. O'Brien's on the run here in full flow. Kevin O'Brien's one of the best hurlers you'll see, but that's tail to the left and wide. Bad miss for Kevin O'Brien, but it's not going to make any difference on the scoreline, Matt, as the clock ticks on to the 68th minute. Time's nearly up here at the Gaelic Grounds, Matt. It's been a comfortable win, as we've mentioned on several occasions, but you'll have to question now, next season South Liberties are in Group 1. If this game is anything to go by, they may struggle.
Yeah, they may struggle, and there's a huge task facing them. First of all, their task in going up will be survival, and like if you're in that frame of mind from the start, like it even makes it more difficult, because I think both Murroe Boher and themselves have got a very clear insight as to what's expected in Group 1, and if anything, it may be even more competitive up there next year. So, like, certainly there'll be a lot of food for thought. And I suppose if Murroe Boher to have a consolation of missing out on promotion, they'll probably see it as a bullet missed now at this stage, because there is a huge gap, and it looks as if there is no team going to break into the top 4 anytime soon. It's going to take another couple of years anyway, and there's a huge challenge facing South Liberties in 2019. But I suppose they will look back and this year and say, look, we turned the corner from consistently losing matches. We won 4 out of 5 matches. We got a shot at one of the big boys, albeit we didn't take it. We came up fairly short, but there is a big task ahead.
Free in for South Liberties from a long ball in. David O'Neill was, could you say, hacked Kieran by Nigel Foley? Would that be a fair description?
I heard the phrase one time, anything above a daisy let fly, and Nigel Foley did it to perfection there and got away with it.
Brian Ryan's free, it's saved, is it? No, it's found its way through. I think it was Brian Murray that got it blocking it. It trailed behind him. And Brian Ryan, especially for his first half performance, Kieran, he hasn't got a lot of ball in the second half. Probably deserved that goal.
Yeah, without a doubt. As I said, and Matt pointed out what they scored in the second half, to be fair. Patrickswell were just kind of that bit more classier, and cream always comes to the top, and it was evident today. But to be fair, it does Pat Carroll on the ball again, to be fair. South Liberties haven't thrown the towel, and they're still battling away. Time is up, and they're still going at it hell for leather.
Very commendable from South Liberties. They have not thrown the towel in, as Kieran Carey says. They do trail 126 to 112 as we hit this 2.5 minutes of injury time played. John O'Halloran choosing to keep playing, even though the game is well over at this stage. There's going to be another free dropped in by Brian Ryan, looking for O'Neill. O'Neill wins it again. Nigel Foley is back on him, put bit better from Nigel on this occasion, but he's still battling David O'Neill. It's symptomatic, as Kieran had said. The O'Neills have been playing for the South Liberties and fighting for the South Liberties cause for a long time. As Ryan tries looking again, he flicks it towards goal. That's a fantastic point from Brian Ryan again. He's led the charge from the very start of this game for South Liberties. 126 to 113. 3 minutes played. Time up, Matt. But you would imagine, you have to, as Kieran said, you have to commend South Liberties for what they've tried to do. They've played to the best of their ability. It hasn't been enough. It's a 13-point defeat. They have bigger challenges ahead next year, but we now know the last 4 semi-finalists is full-time whistle. 4 semi-finalists next weekend. The Pierce Kilmallock, Doon versus Patrickswell, obviously. Matt, next week. 2 mouth-watering games to look forward to.
Yeah, I think they are 2 mouth-watering games. I suppose the expectation coming in here were that Patrickswell and Kilmallock were going to win. I don't think people would certainly have thought that Kilmallock would have won by the margin which they won. Maybe Patrickswell's margin isn't as large, but certainly they made a lot of changes during the second half. Patrickswell, they were so much on top, but Patrickswell, we spoke about it, about Monaleen and football being a different animal when it came to knockout football. Like as I said earlier on, this is knockout hurling. There's no place to hide after today. The Patrickswell focus, which certainly wasn't spot on the last day against Na Piarsaigh, I think is considerably improved. And this is championship hurling, and the semi-finalists where they want to be. They're into the semi-final. They're in against a Doon team that has improved, and a Doon team, I suppose, that made a statement here 2 weeks ago. But watering semi-final that could go anywhere. They will fancy their chances, and actually, the semi-final route may benefit them. Rather than going directly to the semi-final, the extra game, it has given them an opportunity to iron out some of the wrinkles that were there, and we'll say in the game against Na Piarsaigh. And whilst they may have liked a sterner challenge today, well, they didn't get it. All you can do is play what's put in front of you, and I certainly was. I was not impressed by Patrickswell in the last 2 games. I was impressed by him today.
Kieran, just on the previous game, we mentioned we've spoken at length about the Kilmallock Murroe Boher game, but now you have arguably the top 2 teams in Limerick playing each other in a semi-final next weekend. It's a mouth-watering prospect.
It is, to be fair, and you'd nearly, any fella that is following the game of hurling in Limerick and following at club level, you would have predicted the 4 teams that are left: Na Piarsaigh, Doon, Patrickswell and Kilmallock. And when you get to the business in the championship, meaning the semi-finals and the finals, it's about actually experience, cool heads, and Kilmallock will fancy themselves against Na Piarsaigh. Na Piarsaigh, to be fair, I would have to say are the form team. Looking at the 4 teams are there, probably would be made favourites, but I can see Kilmallock giving them bags of it. Patrickswell and Doon could be a very interesting game and will be hard to call. Depending on Patrickswell, if they need to up the ante another little bit, because the opposition obviously is going to be ahead of South Liberties. So, as Matt said, 2 mouth-watering matches coming up next week.
That's all from us here at Sporting Limerick for your double-header of the Limerick Senior Hurling Championship today at the Gaelic Grounds. We'll be back next weekend for the semi-final action